Welcome to the Data Product Management in Action podcast, created and executive produced by me, Scott Hirleman, and brought to you by Soda, your best friend in data quality and contracts tooling. We created this podcast to serve as a place for actual practitioners bringing product management practices to data, whether that is to AI and ML, data products, platforms, or everything else in data, right? And it's to dig into the nitty-gritty of product management in data, but in fun and dynamic conversations. It's not just lift and shift from software product management. We have a great set of hosts for you that are also practitioners, so they can really get into those specifics and dive deep and get you the information you want to know rather than just high level, here is what a data product is. This is about cutting through the noise of data product management to drive towards actionable insights, hence the actual podcast name, Data Product Management in Action. So sit back and enjoy another awesome conversation.
Hey everyone, it is Michael Toland with the Data Product Management in Action podcast, and I'm thrilled to be joined with another of our hosts, Amritha, who is excitedly going to have episodes coming out in 2025. Amritha, how's your morning going?
It's fantastic. So I'm joining from Boston and it's super cold, but yeah, at least it's going to be a white Christmas. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm not certain if we're going to get snow here in Columbus, Ohio, but it is certainly gotten to the cold chill where I am down to my bone and putting my dog in a cute little red jacket. But Amritha, I know that we're here sort of kind of wrapping up our first 25 episodes for Data Product Management in Action. You're excitedly, going to have episodes coming out in 2025. But I'm curious, from the episodes that you've reviewed, is there anything that you've been excited to hear about or learn about from those prior episodes?
One of the things I really love about this platform is that, we are building this community for fellow product leaders. Back in the days, when I think I've been in product management for like 8+ years now. There have been scenarios where I've just felt that I've just been myself, and not knowing how to get ramped up on a particular project. Like building, get to hear some jargons thrown around, from engineering teams or let's say the data analytics teams and all. So point being, I've been in the situations where not knowing, okay, what do I do? What do I learn? What are these terminologies? I feel like today having this kind of a platform that is specifically focused on data product management is very crucial because it builds this virtual community. It doesn't make you feel lonely anymore. So I think that's fantastic. And I did review a couple of episodes where you guys deep dive on how AI ML, intersection of AI ML with data product management. That's something I'm really looking forward to deep diving in 2025.
Yeah, I think that's been something that's kind of been this undercurrent across a lot of the conversations that all of the hosts have been having, which is this kind of concept of how just if you're a product manager, the role can feel really alone. And I think the best of product, to your point, is collaborative. Like I've got to work with my designer, I've got to work with my engineering leads. And as a data product person, which is even more niche, you kind of have to work with like data analysts who, okay, let's just throw out the stereotype there. They are not known for being like super collaborative people. They want to get their request, write their report and go about their day. And getting to a point where you're building a product that kind of gets them excited that they want to collaborate with. I'm curious. I don't think I've had those conversations, and I'll be excited to hear what others have learned for their episodes they've launched. But yeah, it's been interesting. I guess switching gears real quick. I mean, has there been anything exciting from like your personal career that you've been excited to lead? Obviously, we're all in very competitive industries, so we can't probably divulge too much. But I'm just curious, like, is there something that you're working toward that you've been really excited about?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that I've done in my past and continue doing right now in my current role as well. Some of the things that I have done are again, building 0 to 1 kind of data instrumentation pipelines, and how can we enable that particular data to drive operational business. Like I was in supply chain back, this was when I was at Amazon and Wayfair. How can we build these instrumentation pipelines and instrument this data to in form of, like, let's say, reporting that can drive your day-to-day operations. So that's one kind of data product that I've been in. The other kind that I've been in is specifically around ingestion pipelines, and how can we get data over there to help annotate any conversations that has happened as part of that data. So this was in a business, that part of the Alexa team that I was working. And again, as part of this, also working with, I was at one point, I was in one of the roles where I had this weird setup of working with engineers, scientists, analysts, as well as peer product managers, where we were building, software development kits for how can a scientist get data at scale from external or internal data sources and build data sets. So this is another kind of data product management that I've been. And currently what I'm doing is sort of a mix of both, where I'm taking all of these back-end data, again, still working on those platforms. And then how can we manifest this in form of features for users on the front end? Like, for example, one of the features that I've worked on for Klaviyo is working on building an email AI tool. Like, hey, we are going to take all your data and help you build emails so that you don't have to spend a lot of time. Again, this goes back to the core of what is data product management. So those are some of the things that I've been worked on, and then I'm really excited on what I'm doing in future. Yeah.
Yeah, as someone who has to send a lot of emails across the board, because I am a chair of a board of directors for a national nonprofit as well as a consultant, I have found that leveraging AI AML for like helping me restructure and refine some pretty onerous emails to be a game changer, particularly when I'm dealing with like pretty onerous compliance matters. I obviously need to understand the compliance pieces rather than having like AI just give me those, because that can be dangerous from hallucinations. But like just the syntax, the language to make certain my email is explicitly clear has been foundational. I think one of the things that I've been really excited with is I'm rolling off a client as of today as my last sort of day with them. And one of the things I've been excited about is we were implementing a feature to put in restrictions on this customer service platform. And we realized that the data structure just did not support the types of limitations that they wanted to do. And so I've spent the last 4 months painstakingly architecting with some engineers and showcasing what good reference data that empowers the business can look like. And I think I draw back from my time at Verizon, where I talked with on a different podcast about this, about the ability to have really robust data infrastructure that allows the business to move quickly without a single engineer. I think one of the things that folks don't realize is that, like, if you're at a company like Verizon, their data infrastructure is so good in some parts of the business that they can stand up brand new pricing in 2 weeks end to end. Not a single engineer needs to be involved. If it's just like a pricing refresh. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's really, really something that more organizations need to strive for. And so I was really excited to sort of take what I've seen as best in class and help another client do that on the back end and like provide them a path forward as I exit. So I'm writing up actually that recommendation today on how they get there, which has been exciting.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
I'm curious then, from your perspective, we've obviously had lots of conversations on this podcast. You shared sort of your overall insights. Is there anything that you're looking forward to discussing in 2025?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that I'm looking at. The industry landscape is changing, and it's changing very fast. It's hard. At least I'm not able to keep up with all the AI changes currently. What does that mean for product management? There are a couple of ways that I'm thinking. Again, these this is why I feel there's a need for this particular community to figure out what else is out there, right? Couple of things that I'm thinking as PM skills are going to change. How can we help our fellow PM leaders and even ourselves too to understand, like, hey, here is how AI is going to change. Here are the bets that we should start having an awareness, or is calibrate early on, saying that, okay, this might be potential short-term versus long-term trade-offs that we need to do. Here is how scaling data products in future that's going to look like. So what are the problems that our leaders are seeing out there? I want to bring those problems, surface it, talk about it, get people's perspective on how they are trying to solve those problems. What is their mental framework? Those are the details on what and how you're doing will help our fellow product leaders.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love the idea of like how this landscape that's evolving with LLMs is going to be really driving a lot of changes. I think we've seen a lot of poor utilization of LLMs on like this sort of chat bot. Again, I don't mean to disparage, but like revising text, as opposed to, I think I'm starting to see really interesting use cases of how can I use zero few shot prompting to articulate and improve my data quality, and look at the entire universe of a data model and incomplete data and help fill in some of the gaps for quality. How can I identify using an LLM with some simple language utilization of information that like is missing, or to help me automate some back office processes that don't touch a user at all, but accelerate my ability to run more efficiently. I think those are fascinating. I think they are probably going to be the big game changers outside of this sort of public facing nature that we see with AI ML. And I'm really interested in diving more into that with a lot of folks, particularly on how they're solving internal operational, we'll say, problems that folks have caused. Because if it's not going to be driving revenue, typically it just doesn't get the investment. And I think like I'm really fascinated by some of the conversations that I've had in that regard of like, I remember chatting with Lindsay Murphy and Morgan Templer, Lindsay talking about how you work to monitor your data costs, particularly as vendors have switched from fixed pricing to variable rate pricing. And it's caused a lot of organizations' cloud expenses to just balloon as they put more and more data in the cloud. And then how do you develop a financial business case, which is what Morgan Templer is constantly talking about, and like aligning the data org with the finance org, say our needs are shared. And so how then does AI ML get to that point? I guess I'm also curious then, the other thing that I think I've talked a little bit about and I want to explore, I think more in 2025, is like further conversations around how to monetize data. I'm curious if you've had the opportunity to do that in your career. And like, I guess, is that something that you see changing going into 2025?
Yeah, there are a couple of things what you said that really stood out for me. One thing is data utilization that you mentioned. Data utilization is extremely powerful. I see that it's extremely underutilized, like there are
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I see that more often than not, the businesses don't have proper instrumentation. They haven't paid enough attention to connect what kind of data can help connect to finance and revenue, and how can you get even ideas to monetize it. There are certain data, like let's say certain richness that you can provide, like for let's say in supply chain for third-party sellers, you can provide insights into like, hey, here is some of your data, and here is how, let's say if you were to either put an ad or cross-sell this particular products, and here is how we could potentially monetize. And giving these insights, there are ways that you can monetize this. So in terms of monetization and in terms of utilization, I think that those go hand in hand. Identifying both needs a robust data structure, and then connecting them to how whatever data points I have, what is the best user action that it can drive. Thinking from that perspective, and I would love to know more on how other users are thinking. because this is going to be super critical in 2025 as businesses start to understand their costs, their LLM costs, because everything is going to be skyrocketing in 2025. So
skyrocketing. 100% agree. I think that even as the LLM companies are now also pitching like these light or weight models that are a little bit cheaper to run, or like I think Anthropic's really trying to optimize their LLM Claude to be hyper efficient so that you get more tokens per dollar spent. And I couldn't tell you still to this day, like the piece of what a token is. I'm like, that's ethereal to me. I don't fully get it, but I sort of do. Yeah. And I think like how can like, I think product managers also utilize artificial intelligence LLMs to like accelerate their learning. I think this is my most recent client was the first time I've really had to dive into event-driven architecture and understand. I will say that I've realized you can't do good event-driven architecture without really good object architecture, which I do understand a little bit more. And I realized like part of my struggle with a particular client is because they don't have their domains clearly articulated and defined. And while I had good conceptual models of all this and had those reinforced with some quick LLM learnings, it was an eye opener about, I think, just having done this kind of work. I'm really tooting my own horn here, which I hate to do. Sounds very hoity-toity. But like this idea of how can we as product managers accelerate our learning and then share that context back out with our teams, our peers, and reinforce, I think, the best decisions that are going to build value for and solve problems for our users and customers.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. You said it very well. Like to just add to that is how can this, I think this podcast platform can be the place where it's for everyday data product leaders out there who can reference it, who can, learn from our learnings, who can use this, or who can come back to us and be like, hey, this is something that I would like to learn. Are there folks who can help? So it's going to help all of us grow together, as we meander through this changing ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the mythical sort of fable of like the super PM who just gets everything done without help, like they don't exist.
Yeah. And knows all this stuff, someone knows everything. Yeah. He's an LLM, he or she's an LLM themselves,
I'm like, what? They don't exist. They don't exist. It takes all of us. It takes like conversations like this. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly realizing I don't know a damn thing. And it's helpful. And I think like just admitting that often allows me to ask really maybe obvious questions that other people take for granted. I think that's an undervalued skill of like really acknowledging the things that you don't know, figuring out how quickly to learn things enough to where you can like have an intelligent conversation, may not have all the details. And I'm interested in exploring that a little bit more in I think 2025 as well. I guess as we wrap up this little mini episode, is there anything else that you think you want to comment on as far as like 2025 goes, or just the podcast, or I don't know, anything you're excited for?
I'm really excited that we are kicking off this mini episode, and I'll be able to record podcasts in 2025. I'm mainly looking to see how I can also provide insights on what does a data product look like when you are building from 0 to 1 and 1 to n. Some of the things in my experience, product leaders might not get all the opportunity, to work in both the kinds of environment. How can they learn, and how can we paint a picture from real life conversations that can help them get an idea or a perspective that is much deeper enough for them to frame that, okay, so these are the challenges that I face. Let's say if someone worked in 0 to 1, how would that translate to 1 to n? Get that perspective with well-rounded details. Those are some of the things that I'm also looking to dive in 2025.
I love that. Well, I think that probably wraps up what we're excited for, sort of like why we're on this podcast journey, the things that we're really excited about. And so, for folks who have been longtime listeners, become a first-time interviewer, as they say on like the radio, long-time listener, first-time caller. I love that term. But like, if you're interested, reach out every time we release an episode. If you've got an interesting topic that you think you would like to discuss, we always make certain to post a form that you can fill out to get in contact with us. Sometimes it can take a while. We're a small, scrappy team. And I think that's been the other thing that I've really enjoyed is just like having time with these other folks who are interviewing people that I just really find valuable to chat with them. And so hopefully we'll get a little bit more opportunity to do that. Maybe some of us can meet up at a conference somewhere. If you haven't been to the Women in Analytics Data Connect conference, I've gone 2 years in a row. Amritha, I hope I can see you there next year.
That's fantastic suggestion. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I'll keep you posted on it. All right, everyone. That wraps up this mini episode. I want to thank all of our listeners. Anyone, if you're just tuning in, this is sort of the type of conversations, at least I have. All of the hosts have their own flair. I'm excited to hear Amritha's hosting into 2025. But I hope everyone has a wonderful new year. I think this may be releasing in 2025, so we may have to cut these parts. Who knows? But everyone, this is fantastic. I'm really excited and looking forward to 2025. And thanks all.
Thanks all.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you got some great actionable insights out of this episode. We're so excited to dig deeper into data product management and its many facets. If you want to engage more with the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn and check out Soda's website at soda.io for more related content around product management in data. And if you are a practitioner bringing product management practices to data and want to potentially be a guest, please check the show notes for a link to apply. And as always, we strongly encourage people from underrepresented groups in tech to apply. Much as I'm a handsome devil, we don't want all our guests only looking like me. So again, let's get excited for more digging into data product management in action.